Us now, member of the Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committees, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. Senator Coons is just back from a trip overseas where he met with key allies about the situation in the Middle East. Senator, it's good to have you on. What did you hear from those key allies?
Well, Mika, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina led a bipartisan delegation, 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats. We went to the United Kingdom, to Jordan, to Israel, and to Greece. And we met with ministers of defense, foreign ministers, prime ministers, in the case of Jordan, the king. And we heard significant concern about the escalating violence in Syria. I'll just remind you, it's Vladimir Putin's Russia that has made possible the butcher of Damascus, Bashar al-Assad, staying in power and opening a window for Iran's Revolutionary Guard forces and for Hezbollah to gain a foothold throughout Syria. We went to the Golan Heights in Israel and observed actions on the ground in the near distance, right up against Israel's border, by both ISIL, which still has an active pocket there in southwest Syria, and Assad's forces backed up by Iranians. Our Israeli allies, our Jordanian allies are deeply troubled by the chaos in Syria and how close it's getting to their borders. And our allies in the UK and in Greece are interested in tighter, closer security partnerships and in having a clearer path forward. President Trump has led, I think, a number of our core allies to question the forcefulness and clarity of our commitment, both because of his statements and because of his budget, which proposed a dramatic cut in humanitarian aid and in the State Department and USAID. I think it was important that we showed a bipartisan message of support for our key allies in the Middle East.
Really? Senator Coons, it's Willie Geist. If I can hop across the globe with you just a little bit. I spent the last month or so in South Korea, and there's a school of concern there. Obviously, the concern is about North Korea, perhaps a direct attack, but there's a school of concern that the President of the United States may at some point launch a preemptive strike into North Korea, which would then lead to strikes into Seoul and across South Korea. Is that a reasonable concern, or where is the President, where is the policy right now vis-a-vis North Korea?
Willie, there has been real debate about whether to pursue a so-called bloody nose strike against North Korea. Right. I personally think that would be very risky. I think in North Korea you've got not as much a regime as a cult of personality, where Kim Jong-un understands that anything that diminishes his credibility is a direct assault on his regime. And so one of the things I worry about is that our president, who as a candidate said he would aim to be unpredictable, has succeeded beyond his wildest dreams in being unpredictable for our regional allies. So my concern is that Japan and South Korea, who would bear the brunt of any counterattack, don't know exactly where our president is going. We don't have ambassadors in a number of key countries. We don't have an ambassador in Jordan. We don't have an ambassador in South Korea. And so it's hard for the sometimes unpredictable messages put out by our president to be deciphered by our core allies.
Jonathan.
Senator Jonathan Lemire, I know you've been overseas, but of course the major topic here at home has been the issue of gun control in the wake of Parkland. I'm sure you've been following it. I wanted to see, what do you think? Is this a moment where things could actually change? What sort of legislation, what sort of measures do you think actually have a chance of getting through both parties of Congress and getting to the White House?
Well, yesterday I had the chance to visit one of Delaware's high schools and to hear from 500 high school students. The #1 issue they wanted to talk about was gun safety, gun violence, what it's meant to them to have grown up in an environment where they go through school lockdown drills, active shooter drills, and their angry insistence that we in Washington listen to them and take action. I've been talking to Republican colleagues, both on the trip I just mentioned and last night and this morning, about what bills we can introduce that have a chance of moving forward. I remain hopeful that we will take up and vote on common sense bills that will strengthen the enforcement of existing laws and put in place new laws. But the political reality is pretty harsh. And when the kids at that high school in Delaware asked me yesterday, what can we do to be more effective in lobbying Congress for action, I said, don't change the subject. Don't go away. Stay at it. Keep coming. Push us. Because what I saw when I was in Israel at the CNN town hall of high school students from Parkland confronting currently serving senators was really compelling, very powerful. And I expect that we will act if the people of America, in particular the teenagers of America, hold our feet to the fire and insist we take action.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you very much for being on this morning. Good to see you. Coming up, Not that long ago, many Republicans would not have defined the GOP as the party of Trump.